Welcome back, everyone, to a brand new box office breakdown show. We're talking about the weekend here of July 9th to July 11th here on Max Talks Movies. My name is Max and please leave a like, guys. That's the best way to support this channel. Also, please comment down below. Let me know what movies you saw this upcoming weekend. Tell me, what are your predictions of this upcoming week's box office? As well, at the end of this video, I'll be letting you know what movies are coming out in theaters this upcoming weekend and my schedule for videos this upcoming week. Also, please subscribe, ring the bell if you're new to the channel. I do movie reviews, TV show reviews, streaming platform reviews, movie rankings, and this show every single Monday, breaking down the top 5 box office movies of the weekend and still looking at the total domestic box office of 2021. Without further ado, let's get into it. So we were talking about last week, what would Black Widow do at the domestic box office this week? And this weekend, it made $80 million at the box office, its opening weekend. Now, shockingly, Disney did release all of the numbers for Black Widow. We're totally combining with domestically, internationally, and on Disney Plus around the world. It totally collected $215 million this weekend. 80 of that coming from domestically, where most of it made its money. I believe it made 75, if I'm not mistaken, internationally. And the big thing is that it made $60 million on Disney Plus. It's the first time that Disney themselves have released numbers on their own Premier Access numbers. Cruella, they didn't release anything. Raya the Last Dragon, they did not release anything. They didn't even release the viewership of their 2 free movies, the Pixar films, Luca and Soul. So the fact that they are releasing this $60 million, I think the fact that these are the numbers given, $80 million on domestically, 60 at home, I think will definitely confirm that this process of Premier Access and in theaters should be a thing to stay for Disney. They make 100% of the revenue from their Premier Access, and they make around 15 to 20% in theaters. So they really only made really $20, $30 million. Then they only make themselves like $20 or $30 million of that box office, but they get 60 of it, from Disney themselves. So the fact that Premier Access is 100% Disney makes all of that money back themselves, and theaters, they're still making enough money at the box office. I think this should stay. They have not announced that they're doing Premier Access still for Shang-Chi and their future MCU installments. Jungle Cruise will be the next Premier Access movie for Disney that comes out this month, July 30th. So Black Widow coming in first place, making $80 million. Coming in second place this week, in its 3rd week of release, is F9, the Fast Saga, coming in with $10.88 million at the box office. Its 3rd week, it's a 53.7% drop, which takes its total domestic total to $141.3 million. Now, this movie has quietly it made $70 million, obviously with Black Widow making 80, passes Fast 9 for the biggest opening weekend of 2021 and of the pandemic so far. F9 had the biggest drop so far. Last year when it had like 69% second, which even for a blockbuster is a pretty big drop. This also is a pretty big drop for a 3rd week, 52.7. So it's quietly going away. It's still making enough money, but 10.8 is the box office. Coming in 3rd place this week, in its 2nd week, is The Boss Baby 2, Family Business, making $8.7 million at the box office, which is a 45.6% drop from last week. And it takes its total gross up to $34.7 million. Really good news for Boss Baby. This movie is also available for free on Peacock, but it clearly seems like people don't have Peacock, so that's why they're going out to see this movie in theaters. Pretty good numbers for a first movie that got really slammed for how bad it was. Coming in 4th place is The Forever Purge, and it's also 2nd week, making $6.7 million this week, which is a 46% drop from last week. And that takes The Forever Purge's domestic total to $27.44 million. So The Forever Purge, F9, and The Fast Saga, as I said, those were the top 3 movies last week. They're all Universal. And it's cool to see the box office. There's all these different types of movies. You have the superhero films, you have the animated films, you have the horror films, all in this top 5 this week. A lot to watch for people. And still in the top 5, guys, this week at the box office is still A Quiet Place Part 2, making $3 million this week at the box office. which was a 26.7% drop from last week. That takes its domestic total to $150 million. And it's in its seventh week. In all 7 weeks, A Quiet Place Part 2 has stayed in the top 5. It's been number 1 multiple times. It's been number 2 multiple times. It has knocked out Cruella from staying in the top 5. Obviously, a lot of movies are coming out. So the question is, can A Quiet Place survive one more week? I'll talk about that. 2 new movies coming out this week. It seems like it's the end of its time. So this could be the last time we talk about A Quiet Place Part 2 staying in the top 5. But amazing. It should be coming out on Paramount Plus in the next week or 2. Again, 45 days in theaters. It's already in its 7th week. So it'll be going straight to Paramount Plus once its theatrical run is over. Let's also stick with A Quiet Place Part 2 because it is still number 1 with the top movie of the box office domestically so far this year. As I said, it's made $150 million at the box office, which is still number 1. Coming in second place right now is F9 with $141 million. So that is $9 million off A Quiet Place. It does seem like after F9's $10 million last week, that it does seem clear that F9 could in the next week, maybe 2 weeks, pass A Quiet Place Part 2 for the biggest domestic gross of the pandemic thus far. Totally so far domestically. In third place, the other $100 million movie so far of 2021 is Godzilla versus Kong. It has made just $100 million. That theatrical run is pretty much over for Godzilla versus Kong. So it'll stay literally at $100 million. Cruella is number 4 with 80.7, and right at 80 is Black Widow. So Black Widow should be joining that club next week in its second week. The question is, just like F9, how big of a drop off at the box office will Black Widow have? If it's in the high 60s, just like F9, that is not a very good sign. But no matter what, it will be in the $100 million club and should be also passing not just Cruella, but also Godzilla versus Kong. But it will be tough. We'll see if it catches A Quiet Place Part 2 and F9. We're going to break down that every single week. So coming up, guys, this week in theaters, we'll see if it adds to the list. Escape Room Tournament of Champions will be exclusively an in-theaters release. You can't catch that on streaming service or on PVOD as of now. Exclusively in theaters. Also, Pig with Nicolas Cage. That'll be an exclusive in-theater movie as well. But the biggest movie the biggest opening of the weekend should be Space Jam 2 with LeBron James. That will come out on Friday exclusively in theaters and on HBO Max with no extra cost. So that's the Warner Brothers HBO Max theaters deal. We will see how those films, really Escape Room and Space Jam, how will they affect the box office this week? Can Space Jam become the number 1 movie of the week, or will Black Widow sustain itself and still be number 1 with some competition coming in the next couple of weeks? I said I'll give you my schedule of videos for this upcoming week. Wednesday, spoiler review of Loki will be coming out, the season finale. Friday, Bad Batch. Fear Street Part 3 reviews coming out. Those 2 reviews, Escape Room and Space Jam, I'm seeing both those movies this weekend. I'll be reviewing those. A lot of stuff coming out on the channel, so please consider subscribe, ringing the bell. If you're just want to hear for the box office breakdowns, there's a playlist for you right there. If you want to see my other movie reviews, including the movies that have been on this list that I've talked about today, that's right to the right of your screen. I'll see you guys next Monday on the box office breakdown.